have never seen Dr. Umar Johnson snap the way he did in this Art of Dialogue interview, because he is not playing about this Nolan Wells situation. We are about to react to this, and look, I'm telling y'all, better brace yourselves, because this is going to put some fire back in you after being exhausted over all these lies that they've been feeding us. And he is reminding everybody, we did not forget about his throat. We have not forgotten about his lungs. Check this out, y'all.
When the black medical examiner gets the Nolan's corpse art, the throat tissue and the lung tissue is gone. How is he supposed to determine if Nolan died from being choked out or if Nolan died from drowning if he don't have the throat tissue or the lung tissue? And nobody has explained yet whether or not the medical examiner in DC is ever going to get the throat tissue or the lung tissue. And I personally believe, Art, Nolan was deceased before he hit the water. And the reason they held on to the throat tissue and the reason they held on to the lung tissue is they didn't want nobody to know that Nolan was murdered before he hit that water.
Brandon Tatum, we did not forget about you. Umar Johnson is on Officer Brandon Tatum's ass. And I gotta correct myself. You are not an officer, bro. You are, y'all know who he is. I'ma let Mr. Umar Johnson explain who he is. Check this out, y'all.
Doing an interview with Officer BT, that's Kun as in C-U-N-E, Kun as in K-H-E-W-N, Kun as in K-U-H-N, Kun as in C-O-double-N. So Warren did a sit down with Officer BT, and as we all know, BT is white YouTube's pet monkey. Problem I got with this whole story, Art, is Nolan allegedly had too many best friends. I'm trying to find out, how does Nolan have so many best friends, and why did all of these so-called best friends leave their best friend on White Devil's Horn Island without his cell phone and keys? I'm trying to figure this out.
Dr. Umar Johnson begins to speak about something that I've been hammering for a while now. Us as a black people, we must withdraw ourselves from these people's parties. I'm talking about anything America have to offer us. We don't need to be a part of that. Meaning, if it's something that's high price, if it's a damn holiday that we don't need to be associated with, we must withdraw our dollars from these people and get back to the basics of life. Check this out, y'all.
Any other black person who was on Devil Horns Island, any black person who was celebrating the 4th of July, no member of the black race at all should have been celebrating July 4th, 2026, because our ancestors were still enslaved. Nobody has been arrested. Nobody has received a warrant. Nobody has been indicted. Nobody has been charged. If you are innocent, why are you raising money online? You ain't been charged with a crime at all. The state of Mississippi is doing everything they can to make sure y'all don't get charged with anything. Why did y'all cancel your social media? They hired Donald Trump's lawyer, Art. If you innocent, what you need Donald Trump's lawyer for? It sounds like y'all getting ready to defend yourselves. That's what it sounds like to me.
Now, I'm an advocate for people that's doing the work, and I just don't like when somebody's complaining about other people that's doing the work and you're not doing the work yourself. Not saying Umar Johnson ain't doing no work, but you're not doing the work that they're doing. So in this segment, I'm gonna have to disagree with Dr. Umar Johnson.
Here's my question to Benjamin Crump and Al Sharpton, Art. How long is Ben Crump and Al Sharpton going to wait around, Art, before they tell the world that they don't think this investigation is being done correctly? How long before Benjamin Crump and Al Sharpton demand that the FBI and Department of Justice take over this investigation? Art, it's been over a month and we know nothing. They declared this an accidental drowning before they did any investigation. That's a cover-up. They never treated the boat like a crime scene. They never took a look at the other two boats. Those 30 white kids should have had their cell phones confiscated, investigated. All their social media should have been investigated. Their homes should have been investigated. They should have all been interrogated. They should have been investigated to see if they or their parents had any connection to any of the white hate groups in the state of Mississippi. None of that was done. According to the Cajun Navy, they offered Ben Crump to put dogs on the boat and let the dogs sniff it out to see if anybody had recently been deceased on that boat or if there had been any blood on that boat. And according to the representative from the Cajun Navy, Ben Crump told him, don't do it. Did you have your own dogs to sniff out the boat? Because if you didn't, why didn't you let them sniff the boat out with the dog? The dogs can tell, Art, if somebody had recently lost their life or if blood had been spilled. He said Ben Crump told him no. I need Ben Crump to explain that.
But let's not forget the Cajun Navy and everybody who owns them damn boats. They all know each other. So who's to say that those dogs would have came back or they would have allowed the results to be released? Just like they're holding back the autopsy report, they probably could have held back the results of the dogs sniffing the boat. Who knows?
I believe they kept the lungs, Art, because they knew that those lungs would have provided evidence of the fact that Nolan may have been deceased before he hit that water. They kept the throat because it may have shown some trauma that Nolan may have gotten choked out. We don't know if Nolan got hit in the back of the head. We don't know if the blood simply drained to the back of the head. They say Nolan was found face down in the water. Not only that, Nolan was transported face down to Washington, D.C. I don't think that has anything to do with the blood draining to the back. You want to know why? Because he was found floating on his face.
Now, here's a part I can't agree with Dr. Umar Johnson, which is history is repeating itself. And it's up to us to make a change. We cannot sit up here and keep begging these people to show us respect. The truth is, we're going to have to respect ourselves. And not only that, we're going to have to continue withdrawing ourselves from their economy. Let's hit them where it hurts, y'all.
So they tracked the phone to his house, Art. And Sister Tashima said when they opened up the door, the house was dark. They turned the lights off so they wouldn't recognize nobody's face. 61 years later, they doing the same thing for black people who think white people have changed. It's time to wake up and smell the coffee. They are their ancestors. They might be worse. And since they are their ancestors, we need to be our ancestors. Why is Ben Crump and Al Sharpton dragging their feet? Benjamin Crump, you need to have a street march.
I swear I predicted this one. Now, just a couple days ago, I was saying hashtag Million Man March in Mississippi.
You need to bring all of the black militia groups to Mississippi, and we need to march on Mississippi. Your approach to this investigation is too humble, it is too docile, it is too meek, it is too soft. You are dealing with Mississippi, and you have not activated any street protests. Sister Christine and Brother Nolan Wells are not going to get justice, Art, if Benjamin Crump doesn't activate a street activism campaign. Al Sharpton is about to have another march on Washington. For what? Al Sharpton. Listen to me, sir. You don't need to march on D.C. Al Sharpton needs to switch the march from Washington, D.C. to Mississippi. We should march in Senatobia, Mississippi one day for baby Cohen. We have to march in Cleveland, Mississippi for our brother Trey Reed. So we need to march in Cleveland, Mississippi. We need to march in Senatobia, Mississippi. We need to march in Jackson, Mississippi.
So come to find out, Reverend Al Sharpton is doing a march in Washington, D.C. What Umar Johnson is saying that we don't need it in D.C. We need to go to Mississippi to do a march. Damn, I just said that.
Tasia Fortune was found hanging from a tree. They had to use a ladder to go up on the tree and get our sister Tasia down. They called the Cito company at 4 o'clock. It sounds like they may have been in the act of unaliving Nolan Wells when they made the call.
So it looks like Dr. Umar Johnson shares the same sentiment as a lot of people that's out there, which is that call that they made on the boat was just a cover-up. And the reason why everybody think that that's a cover-up is because you didn't even want any help, bruh. She asked you, do you need me to send you out some help? You said no. Well, how deep is the water? Your story is just way too conflicting. We don't believe you. You need more people. But Umar Johnson said he don't give a damn who you send out if his boat is sinking. He said you could call some snow bunnies. Now, we all know what Dr. Umar Johnson feel about the snow bunnies. He said you call the snow bunnies to come rescue him. He don't care who comes and rescue him if his boat is sinking.
Because the call was bogus. This is my belief. Nothing was wrong with that boat. They made that call because they needed an alibi, Art. When Nolan's body was found, and if they were able to determine the time of death, they say, wait a minute, Nolan was unalived at 4 o'clock. They could say our boat was sinking at 4 o'clock and we was on the phone with Cito. The phone was a decoy. The phone call was a bait and switch. There was nothing wrong with that boat, Art. We know that Mississippi is going to find all the audio engineers that they can find, Art, to try to say that the background noise cannot be corroborated or verified. They're going to say we can't use the background noise. There's too much going on. We don't care what Sister Jeanette Brantley had to say. We had our own FBI audio engineers listen to it, and they can't make out the conversation. Even if they throw out the background noise, I believe we still have probable cause to arrest all 30 of those white kids. He calls the operator on Cito. The operator says, how can I help you? Our boat is sinking and we need a tow. How much water are you in? We're in 17 feet of water. No. We in 31 feet of water. There's the big difference between 17 and 31. They boat all the time. They go to Horn Island all the time. Why don't you know if you're in 17 foot of water or 31 foot of water? The Cito operator, Art, says, do you want me to call the Coast Guard? Do you want me to call the Coast Guard? We don't need the Coast Guard. If your boat is sinking, do you care who comes to rescue you? If I'm sinking in 31 feet of water, you can call the Coast Guard, you can call the aliens, you can call the snow bunny boat, you can call whoever you want to call if my boat is sinking. Who says we don't need the Coast Guard if we sink it? She says, how many adults are on the boat? There are no adults on the boat. Second lie. First lie, he said, Nolan said, I'm staying behind to hang out with Katie. Y'all can leave me. Katie said Nolan told her, I'm headed back to the boat because my friend's about to leave. That was lie number one. Lie number two. The Cito operator asked you, how many adults are on the boat? He said, everybody on the boat is under 21. She said, that was not my question. She begged him to tell her how many people are on the boat. Is anybody breathing on the boat? He said, a lot of people breathing on the boat. She said, is there anybody living on the boat? He said, yes, people are alive on the boat. Art, I would like to investigate her. She didn't do no crime. I want to know what made that operator say, is anybody breathing on the boat? What made her say, is anybody alive on the boat, Art? What did she hear in the background? That don't sound like a regular question. It's almost like she could feel something was going on.
Man, that's the end of the video. I really enjoyed this interview. The link to Art of Dialogue will be in the description. And Dr. Umar Johnson, he has a pretty interesting perspective on the Nolan Wells case, because I would have never thought that the operator asked him who was breathing on the boat. And why would she ask him who was breathing on the boat? It kind of makes me think that, did a situation like this occur before? It's like, if he's telling you that the boat is sinking, why would somebody not be breathing on the boat? Or why wouldn't somebody be alive on the boat? Y'all let me know what y'all think, man. And I want to give a shout out to Nolan Wells' parents for being so strong. For standing up, for being able to speak at these conferences, because somebody losing a child, man, you gotta feel like weak. I don't even want to imagine how something like that feel. But prayers and condolences to their family. Let's not forget, y'all, the medical examiner has deemed the unaliving of our people time after time after time no foul play. And what are we going to do about this, y'all? I say we need to do a 1,000,000-man march out in Mississippi, make these people feel uncomfortable as hell. Y'all get in the comment section. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this interview. Y'all let me know, what do y'all think we need to do to make a change? Also, I believe that we need to withdraw our dollars from this economy that has been burning us for years. I feel as though we're fueling it by spending our money with these people. Let's hit them where it hurts. Y'all let me know what y'all think, man. Make sure y'all hype this video. Make sure y'all subscribe. Big Kish signing out. Gone, y'all.